What is up, guys? Frosty Aussie0232 here today for another Frosty Features. Today we are covering another one of our new Avengers, Mockingbird, Bobby Morse. If you haven't been to a Frosty Feature before, what this is a comic book background on the tunes that you use in Marvel Strike Force. So with all of that, let's dive in. According to Scopely, Mockingbird, Barbara Bobby Morse, aka Mockingbird, is one of the strongest and most influential women in the Marvel Universe. Introduced in Astonishing Tales number 6, Bobby emerged 2 years later as the S.H.I.E.L.D. spy agent 19. Since then, Bobby has foiled countless evil plots, fought alongside multiple Avengers teams, formed her own spy agency, and even became a real-life Skrull boogeyman. That's a fun description. Well, we will rate it at the end. So let's see what Frosty has to say about Mockingbird. Mockingbird! There she is in all her beauty. Name, Dr. Barbara Morse. She is a doctor. Number one, most of the time I don't jump on people's names so much, because people's names are names. I don't know. The title is usually very heavily hit in comic books. For some reason, people leave off Barbara's doctor. She's a PhD in biology. And that's actually how she ends up kind of on her path of getting powers or whatever. So she has a PhD. Dr. Bobby Morse. Doctor. Very important. So you're already learning stuff. First appearance, Astonishing Tales number 6, 1971. We got us the 70s, baby. Astonishing Tales is the beginning of many a Marvel character. Powers / ability. She actually does have powers. Some people might not know that necessarily, but she her entire kind of origin is based around trying to recreate a super soldier serum, like a Captain America kind of thing. She actually has had 2 different super soldier serums injected into her. Neither quite as potent as Captain America, the Immortus serum, and I believe the Gladiator serum. I should have wrote that down. But so she is superhuman, right? So she is stronger, faster, etc. than most. Yeah. And she actually has some low-grade telepathy where she can communicate via mind. So yes, there it is. Via mind. Oh gosh. Alias is Agent 19. She goes by Bobby. Everyone calls her Bobby. And Huntress. So Huntress. It's funny how often Huntress comes up. She actually only dons the moniker of Huntress one time. Agent 19 for my Marvel Snap players. That is this character. And then Bobby is the nickname she goes by. Affiliations: S.H.I.E.L.D., Avengers, many others. Essentially, if Hawkeye's involved, she's typically involved as well. We see her with the new Avengers. Obviously, that's Scopely got one right. West Coast Avengers, the mainline Avengers, pretty much any S.H.I.E.L.D. or Avengers team, she's a part of it. And she also makes her own spy agency, which has the same initials as West Coast Avengers, which is fun. Who died? Dr. Abraham Erskine, right? The Project Rebirth happens, and everybody wants to recreate that serum, so for her, they want to recreate that serum. So her entire, she works with a doctor that she's a big fan of at the University of Georgia Technology. And she is, her mentor's goal is to recreate the super soldier serum. So that's what she ends up doing in Project Gladiator. And we'll talk about that a little bit more moving forward. But nobody can be a superhero without somebody dying. In this case, somebody died 30 years earlier, and that resulted in her walking down this path of eventually becoming a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent after being recruited from Project Gladiator, and than being Mockingbird, right? Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. Just hold your horses. Background. She is San Diegan. She is from California, San Diego, went to that University of Georgia situation and moved on from there. Had a normal childhood, has parents, great, siblings, awesome. Nothing super tragic in the backstory right away, but yes. Project Gladiator. So, in this situation, so I brought this up a couple of times, obviously. So this is an attempt to recreate the super soldier serum. So every time that happens, bad things happen, right? So the making of the Hulk, recreating the super soldier serum. The spiders that bit Spider-Man, recreating the super soldier serum, right? Things happen that aren't so good, right? In this case, she is working with Dr. Ted Sallis, who is one of the big, awesome characters that for some reason isn't in Marvel Strike Force yet. But this is the project in which Man-Thing is created. That Dr. Ted Sallis is Man-Thing, who, protects the multiverse from, supernatural things. Very Doctor Strange, it's a really cool thing, but we don't have him in Marvel Strike Force. So the, turns out there's AIM. Shield has suspected AIM saboteurs within Project Gladiator, and Mockingbird is supposed to figure this out. She doesn't, and they mess with the formula. And then when Dr. Ted Sallis injects it into himself, he becomes the Man-Thing. So with that, after the Man-Thing is found out, they were like, oh, AIM sabotaged us, and then they take them out, boom, boom, boom. But then all of a sudden we have Mockingbird being recruited by S.H.I.E.L.D. and eventually getting the Immortus Serum. And like that, the Immortus Serum, for context, check out Frosty Features Nick Fury. That is the super soldier serum Nick Fury has. It pretty much makes you immortal. And we have Man-Thing, which is cool. Yeah, moving on. Kidnapped by Ultron. All right, so Ultron is weird as a robot. He, for some reason, wants a wife really bad. And first he creates Joe Costa based off of Janet Van Dyne. He steals Janet, and then he makes a robot whose personality is perfectly matched off of hers, right? So when Joe Costa's out of the thing, Ultron kidnaps Mockingbird for some reason and makes his second wife based entirely off of Mockingbird's personality, which is kind of weird, but it's a thing. And I just thought it was really interesting that Mockingbird gets kidnapped a lot. We'll talk about that in a second too. But for some reason, out of all the characters in the Marvel Universe, Mockingbird was number 2 next to Wasp to have a wife modeled after. I don't know. All right, relationships. Susan Morse is her mother, unnamed father that we're not aware of. She has a brother named Benny Morse. Clint Barton is her ex-husband. This is known to a lot of people. A lot of her relationships, a lot of her difficulties and stuff, romantically, all come from... She actually has a bad habit of calling her partners Clint, even though they're not. So that's great. And then she also had a fling with Peter Parker, which, sliding timescale aside, she's double his age, but whatever. Immortus Serum, right? It's comics. Who cares? But yes, so she... Mockingbird has had many romantic partners throughout the years, so, but most notably would be Hawkeye, obviously Clint Barton, but Peter Parker's just a fun one to point out. Notable events, The Huntress. So the only reason I wanted to point out The Huntress, one, it's at the very beginning of, it is before Bobby becomes Mockingbird. It is the first moniker she picks up outside of being assigned to Agent 19 by S.H.I.E.L.D. And also, I found this really interesting, because it's from a comic written in 1976, Marvel Super Action #1, and it's the comics in black and white, which is kind of different for Marvel. And I don't think I've read any that are in black and white, and if I have, I don't remember it, but it's not super often. especially in the 70s where there's a lot of color and stuff like that. So I thought this was just really interesting, and I wanted to share that this storyline we're going to talk about is 100, and it's the only time she is the Huntress, right? But it's in black and white, which I just find really interesting. Okay, so S.H.I.E.L.D. assigns her as a bodyguard for a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Orlando, and he has this briefcase, and as she is bodyguarding him on like this ship, the briefcase explodes and kills him and almost kills her, and it's pretty bad. And then a Congress told, so as she was trying to be the bodyguard, she comes across this congressman, and the congressman was like, hey, listen, the congressman is also a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, but he's like, this was an inside job. I know it was. So she takes off, and she puts on a costume so no one will recognize her. You know, you don't show your face, you show your cleavage. That's how you disguise. Exhibit A, right? So she puts on this moniker, and she takes up the name of the Huntress, and she starts hunting down all these different people, and she finds out that this S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Rico Santana, wants to invade oil fields in the Middle East, and this is the person who killed the person she was supposed to be a bodyguard over. So she kind of inserts herself. She is trained in espionage via S.H.I.E.L.D., and she inserts herself, and she tries to ruin this plan, but in the process, one of her friends and S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, which his name is Scott, I couldn't find a last name for him, but S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Scott, very akin to Greg, right? S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Scott is killed, and at face value, it seems like, hey, there's a lot of dead bodies here, and the Huntress is there, standing over the dead bodies. She's the one that did it. So S.H.I.E.L.D. puts out a hit, essentially, or puts enemy to S.H.I.E.L.D. Bobby Morse, the Huntress. So the Huntress, Bobby, has to go, Mockingbird, has to go into hiding. So as she goes into hiding, time passes and places shift. And she ends up in New York City, where she is, walking down an alley style, and she gets attacked by S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and Spider-Man's like, why are S.H.I.E.L.D. agents attacking that pretty lady? Let me intervene. And Spidey jumps in and beats the crap out of everybody. I think this is the third Frosty feature where that's the thing that happens. Is they're like, oh, my origin story started. I'm gonna go to New York, and Spider-Man is gonna save me, or decide not to save me after I save myself. In this situation, he takes out all the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and she kind of runs off, and then a S.H.I.E.L.D. branch agent who is also corrupt, because in the 70s, every other S.H.I.E.L.D. agent was corrupt, because why not? A S.H.I.E.L.D. branch manager is like, hey, Spider-Man, she's actually pretty evil, so that's a thing. But then Nick Fury shows up and kills the branch manager. Nick Fury's like, hey, I noticed that you're evil. I killed you. And so then Mockingbird's like, oh man, hey, before you kill me though, let me explain something. This is what actually happened back when I was Huntress. And then Nick Fury's like, okay, cool. You can work with us. She's like, cool, I'll be called Mockingbird from now on, because I like to mock my opponents. Like a certain spider individual who just saved me, but that's besides the point. I'm Mockingbird. She actually does not relate it to Spider-Man at all. That's just a connection that I made. So then Nick Fury's like, okay, great, you'll just work with us, and you'll just work with us now, Mockingbird. Have a good day. So that's how she gets her name. It's kind of a lame story, very James Bond-esque, I guess. But yeah, so that's how she ends up with the Mockingbird moniker, which is a little bit lame. Next, we're going to talk about Secret Invasion, not the show. For some reason, as of this recording date, I still haven't finished the show. But Secret Invasion, the comics. So, one of the big things to note is Mockingbird is one of the very first heroes confirmed to be kidnapped in the Secret Invasion situation. So at this time, she's in the Avengers West Coast, and she is replaced by a Skrull, and the Skrull goes through a ritual in which the Skrull gets all of Bobby's memories. So when she gets put in, she's trying to extract information from the West Coast Avengers, and also slowly, get them alone and replace them with other Skrulls, etc. as Secret Invasion goes. So as this happens, the thing I find most interesting about Mockingbirds is when she gets kidnapped, since she's early in the process, right? So a scroll gets put into the West Coast Avengers acting as Mockingbird, and then Mockingbird gets put in a full West Coast Avengers team that is all scrolls, and all of them are trying to extract information from her by impersonating the other West Coast Avengers, which is pretty cool. I think that's a clever way to get that to work. So on the actual West Coast Avengers team with the scroll in it, there is a situation where they get in a fight with Satanish and Mephisto, two other characters not in Marvel Strike Force, and Bobby dies, and with the death, Vision ends up disbanding the team, which kind of shows the effectiveness in which the scrolls operated. So we have the West Coast Avengers banning because a scroll dies, but they didn't know that it was a scroll. And meanwhile, at the exact same time, so Bobby's working with the fake West Coast Avengers team on the Skrull planet, right? And she ends up realizing that this Skrull team is a Skrull team. She is smart. She's hip and happening and knows what's going on, right? So she ends up escaping. She ends up escaping the kind of compound, the fake West Coast Avengers compound that she is in, and she escapes, and she ends up becoming this, and it's actually brought up in the Scopely thing, but she ends up becoming this boogeyman for Skrull children, essentially, but she becomes a secret assassin, and she goes by the Robed Witch, and she kind of just like slowly hunts down these various Skrulls, and it kind of comes to a head when she hunts down the Skrull that was impersonating Clint Barton. So after she takes out a lot of Skrulls this way, but after she kills the Clint Barton one, she ends up getting captured and put with the rest of the prisoners in Secret Invasion, and she gets rescued with everybody else as Secret Invasion ends. But she becomes the Robed Witch and starts and it strikes fear. She's a horror bedtime story told to Skrull children to keep them safe. So yeah. Anyway, Secret Invasion. You should definitely read Secret Invasion. Also, other notable events. I just want to throw this out here. I've never plugged this, but for anybody who is like, you're like, I don't know if I want to read comic books or whatever, but you're into podcasts. Marvel has a series. Marvel has a series of podcasts, The Wastelanders, and it's published by Marvel, and it's got professional voice actors, whatever, and it tells these different Wastelander stories. Wastelanders Hawkeye features Bobby Morse in a really big way, and it's super awesome. So I'm just throwing out there just a quick, I'm not sponsored or anything, but just a quick plug. Check out Marvel Wastelanders Hawkeye. It is super cool. So far I've liked every single one of the Wastelander things that I've listened to. I think I've listened to 4 of them. So definitely check those out. All right, moving on. In Marvel Strike Force, they don't care much about power scaling, but here in Frosty Features, we do. Now, the way this works, if you are a multiversal power level, that means you can end all of reality as all people know it. Not just your reality, all realities. You are a threat to the multiverse itself. Universal means you are a threat to your reality. Maybe then can hop over, just skip on to another universe and end it there. Cosmic means you are a threat on the small end, being a planetary scale, meaning you can take out things like planetary bodies or even solar systems or galaxies with enough effort. Nuclear means you have power equal to that of a nuclear bomb on the small end, taking out things like small cities. On the big end, taking something out like a planet. Super soldier means that you are higher than all levels of actual human ability. A human cannot train to be as strong or as powerful as you. Power looking like you can take out something like a brick wall or maybe even leveling up to a city block. City means that you are a person that is trained to the peak of human ability. We have a lot of our mercenaries, our secret agents, our spies and things end up here in the city level. And then there's Greg. Greg is the undead Asgardian spawned by Hela in Marvel Strike Force, and due to undead Asgardian physiology, and just because I want to use it for the sake of argument, I'm equating Greg to being equal to that of a regular human fighter. Right? So, in the event that I had a lot of leftover teenage angst and a long rubber hose, I theoretically could fight and defeat Greg, right? theoretically. So, in the case of Mockingbird, we have a person who was injected with super soldier serum that automatically puts them above human ability. So, we have pretty firmly planted in super soldier. She does have extra abilities, the telepathy, but that doesn't actually kind of affect how strong she is, other than maybe being more efficient at communication. She is super strong, super fast, super flexible, etc. Super soldier. It's pretty easy. Nice designation that just goes ahead and puts her there, right? So, with that being said, looking back at, according to Scopely, she is definitely not one of the strongest and most influential women in the Marvel Universe. I would argue she probably doesn't even crack the top 20 of that list, maybe not even the top 25, maybe 30. I'm very surprised that was I guess I'm not so surprised about that being the declaration there. Overall, this is extremely general, which we very often will see Marvel, we'll see Strike Force kind of do this, where they really overgeneralize something. They definitely overblow her strength a lot in this. Yeah, saying things like Bobby has foiled countless evil plots. It's like, okay, that means she's been in comics. Good. There's very little detail here. They didn't try very hard. Ultimately, it's okay. The only thing, nothing's exactly wrong other than maybe her being so strong, and that's debatable. But nothing's wrong. They get the information right, but it's super generalized so that they can't be wrong. So it's a nice try. It's fine. Yeah, but anyway, so that is Frosty Features Mockingbird. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Let me know if what you liked, or if I got anything wrong down in the comments. I like to know both ways. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube. It doesn't cost you anything but a couple of clicks. And as a reminder, I stream at the link above, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, where we do Frosty Features live. I hope that you all enjoyed it. I hope that you all had a fantastic time, and I hope that you all have a fantastic weekend. Most importantly, y'all, stay cool.